Two houses, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona do we lay our scene. Sound familiar? We have our own two houses, the House of Academic Affairs and the House of Student Affairs. Colleges and universities need both sides of the houses to work together in order to provide a truly holistic educational process for students. But these two houses sometimes fight over resources and blame each other for problems that are happening with our students. Sometimes it can get bad, and these two areas are pushing and pulling for control over both resources and the students. As a member of one of these houses and having to work with the other very frequently, I'm concerned about this issue. Why is getting these two houses to work together so difficult? And this question is not just mine alone. There's been lots of articles and research efforts to try to figure out how best student affairs and academic affairs can better collaborate. And with so much help available, you'd think it'd be easy to collaborate. But in truth, it's more difficult than one might think. Higher education has roots in English hierarchy, where being literate landed you a better status. Being educated meant going away from the home. It meant being in the classroom and at an institution. And that kind of learning has persisted. Because of these historical roots, the way we think about education is that if it is done in the classroom, it has validity. And there's an inherited hierarchy about who can teach in that classroom. Of course, in the history of American higher education, student affairs came later than academic affairs. And though our field of student affairs is still growing, we still have a long way to go, because there's a lot of people on campus that don't understand what the true value of student affairs work is, or that out-of-classroom learning is valid. And when you're not valued, it's hard for people to know whether you should be someone to collaborate with. And when you're not valued and not necessarily asked to the table, when you find yourself in situations where you want to collaborate, collaboration can feel like this. Or sometimes collaboration feels like this, a bit unequal. Because there's so many layers of hierarchy, sometimes it can just feel exhaustive. As a student affairs professional and trying to collaborate, sometimes your voice is silenced, or you feel dwarfed by the amount of privilege that's in the room and the status that cultivates. It can feel frustrating as a student affairs professional, especially when you are being ignored, or not being heard, or not invited to the table, or asked to be involved around important meetings concerning student learning, or are not seen by the academy as educators, but just support staff, are usually hired as an at-will employee and might be scared to voice their opinion, and hardly any faculty really understand your field. There must be a way to help academic affairs faculty and administrators understand our work. See, one of the things is that student affairs professionals are trained as counselors, supporters, listeners, and part of the helping profession. We are trained to be there for others, to be there for our students during their journey in college. As student affairs professionals, we learn that tooting our own horn and taking credit for programs actually takes away from student empowerment. But if we're not advocates of our own worth and the work that we do in student affairs, who will be? We need our good work to be talked about and recognized. But will anyone do the work for us? Certainly our Dean of Students is busy kind of taking care of student issues, and HR is there to resolve conflict in the workplace. Maybe for student affairs professionals to become fully recognized for the good work that we do on our campuses, we need to follow our own recommendations that we offer to students who feel marginalized. After all, we are very resourceful. We have a lot of people around us, and perhaps they're feeling the same way. There's probably a lot of strategies out there designed to help student affairs professionals be at the table and be heard, but today I'm going to talk about the strategy that worked for me, and it wound up being my comprehensive project. A case for building partnerships in academic and student affairs through intergroup dialogue. This is my institution. Let's call it College of the Earth. The origin of College of the Earth is that in 1992, there were 15 faculty that were appointed to create the college. And those faculty had some big plans of their own about what this College of the Earth was going to look like. In typical fashion of many colleges and universities, the education inside the classroom is the first priority, and most of the resources and attention go to the development of that piece. Also in typical fashion, because faculty are not necessarily educated about the needs of students outside the classroom, their focus is primarily inside the classroom learning, and our faculty were no different. In 1993, when the inaugural class at the College of the Earth came to campus, the faculty forgot that the students were going to need to live somewhere, and they were temporarily housed while a building was created. Even though the building was scrambled together and students were able to live there, one of the challenges is that the College of the Earth faculty hired yet another faculty member to take care of the building. They did not know about the field of student affairs or the needs of housing and residential education. The faculty went back to planning courses, but within the building, there was an on-campus medical emergency. So the faculty determined we needed a counseling and crisis center, and they built it. And like the College of the Earth, many student affairs divisions within colleges and universities have been piecemealed together based on crisis and the need to support students, which leaves for a little bit of a shaky foundation. And when things are piecemealed together because of crisis, or just simply thought of as an afterthought, that's not a great plan. Although there are several professional organizations to help guide our practice, each student affairs division is unique into itself, and the challenges that each division faces are also unique. At our college, the College of the Earth, because faculty were the originators of the college, they have a lot of power and privilege and presence on this campus. We needed them to be our advocates in student affairs. But so far, no one had really done that. Because of my role here at the College of the Earth, I really needed to get in touch with faculty and bring them to the table, and I didn't have a way to do that through any sort of stipend or kind of professional development funds. And I was trying to find the best way to do this. In my quest to find the right mechanism to bring faculty and student affairs practitioners together, I found that we have a Teaching and Learning and Assessment Center. This center really focuses on the development of faculty through their teaching career. I had an aha moment as I figured that would be a great way for me to be involved with the faculty and talk about what I thought was important, student affairs. While looking at the TLA website, I noticed that faculty would receive a stipend if they signed up for a co-op, which was offered once a semester. Now, of course, there are many different conversations about whether faculty should be stipend on top of the salary that they already receive. But this, of course, is a more philosophical approach based on the institution and what its precedent is. Even though I knew student affairs professionals that participated in a co-op would not be paid a stipend, including myself, I still thought the TLA approach was an important vehicle because that's where faculty go to get their resources. I set up a meeting with the director of TLA and I invited a faculty friend of mine that the director knew of. That way I could go ahead and pitch a proposal to the director without it looking like I was coming from nowhere. Up to this moment, there had not been a student affairs representative be involved with one of the co-ops through TLA, so I was a bit nervous to approach the director of TLA about this idea. Although the TLA director, being a faculty member herself, was a little cautious about involving student affairs into the TLA process, she was definitely excited about student affairs representatives being able to help educate faculty about how to handle student crisis. In my proposal for the cooperative, I included not only a map of readings and texts that the faculty and student affairs collaborators would read, but there would be a series of questions that I would ask guest speakers as they were invited to participate. I proposed that the pedagogy for creating these rubrics would really be through the concept of intergroup dialogue, almost like these were two different cultures. Actually, two cultures of educators that needed to sit down and come to terms. My proposal was accepted, and I was very joyful because I knew that TLA would secure the amount of participants that I needed to conduct these sessions. How quickly the time flew by, and we had 6 very productive sessions about looking at the effects of collaboration between student affairs and academic affairs. Our readings provided a good foundation for our discussion. Each reading talked about a series of collaborations, their failures, their successes, and what are the best practices in working across both sides of the house. There were a total of 16 participants and 4 guest speakers. Each participant, which included 8 faculty and 8 student affairs representatives, were very enthusiastic in sharing their experiences around collaboration. Of the 4 guest speakers that were invited, each one were asked questions like, what were the messages that was sent to you as a student affairs member? Or what were the challenges in collaborating? Or what were the successes in collaborating? Their stories were revealing. Stories were shared like, I was never treated as a professional. Or, I run and get beach volleyballs at commencement, but I don't stand on that stage even though I have a PhD from Harvard. Faculty responses were, oh my gosh, I never even knew that student affairs existed. Or, really? I didn't understand about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Or, wow, this has been one of the most impressive collaboratives we've ever had. You know, I belong to the GE committee, and I want to make sure student affairs is a part of our new GE Pathways process. Part of the responsibility of leading the co-op meant I also needed to lead the group in developing a work product that TLA could use on their website and hand out to faculty. I also was going to have to present at the TLA conference. Our TLA work product wound up being a comprehensive list of best practices that both faculty and student affairs could do to better collaborate here at the College of the Earth. I was asked by TLA to continue the co-op in the fall, and all the participants are excited to not only be involved, but bring additional members in. So I expect it to be a pretty fruitful semester. In conclusion, because of this cooperative, I got a lot of love and respect from the Student Affairs Division. I also got a lot of kudos from my dean, who has now been invited to several academic affairs administrative meetings that she says has resulted because of the cooperative. So although this is the end for now, I encourage all of you to look for creative solutions to getting yourself at the table so that we can continue to grow our field of student affairs.